today's webinar. So let me just double check something first. I'm unmuted. Okay, cool. So you should be able to hear me now. Any problems? Probably in the message board. So welcome to today's webinar. This is our 7th, I believe, for this year. Due to vacations and what have you, we're holding one over the 2 months, July and August, returning to our normal last Thursday of the month in September. So thanks for your understanding on this particular matter. So I hope everybody's keeping safe and well out there as things start to think about returning to normal. We at Bentley are still here for you. Nothing has changed. We're still available to help with whatever needs help with, and we'll still be doing exactly as we've done right the way through this whole situation. So as I say, welcome to today's seventh presentation for this year. We're going to look at today. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I haven't edited my template. This is not Templates 101 Part 2. This is data, using your data. I'll just quickly change that because for the recording. So this is so apologies for that. So yeah, we're going to be looking at what we do with your data today. So that's importing, exporting, etc. So as I say, usual housekeeping, this session will be recorded and everybody who's registered with us will receive an email with the recording. We'll endeavour to create an MP4 and post it onto the YouTube account as well. So keep an eye out for that, and of course share the links with any of your colleagues who you think may be interested as well. The more we have at these sessions, the better it is. So first a little bit on data usage, and then we'll have a look at importing, exporting and reporting. Then Mark's going to do some work on interacting with the industry by various methods and also Bentley products as well. And then I'll have a look at a couple of last bits and pieces if we get time at the end. But there's also a link, as usual, to some online resources, and we'll talk about the next webinar, date and time and topic of next webinar. So data usage. So what we're going to look at today is what data you can import. We've covered this before, so we're not going to go through everything again, but we'll look at indicating where all sorts of data that you can importing it is from. We'll also look at exporting data, what you can export, how you can export it, where to, and we'll be looking at terrains, geometry, and any files that you can export as well. Quick refresh on point clouds, what you can do with point clouds, and also various reports that you can get out of OpenRose Designer. Then I'm going to pass over to Mark, and he's going to look at some of the industry tools which OpenRose Designer utilizes: coordinate systems, Bing Maps, Google Earth, reality meshes, visualizations, how to interact with iModels, and some of the geotechnical tools as well. And if we get a chance at the end, I'm going to go back and not do a detailed demonstration, but mention Asset Manager, IFC for civils, where it stands at the moment. And I was hoping to get one of my colleagues to talk about digital twins, but unfortunately he hasn't made it. So we may not be able to cover much on digital twins today. But as I say, this is really the bit on, it's not really OpenRose Designer, it's really how you use the data elsewhere. There's some online materials, which is the communities, talks about data. There's some a link here to digital twins and the civil section, and there's also a learning path on how to manage your data. And as I said, the next webinar will be Thursday, the 24th of September, and we're going to look at the asset manager and item types. So that may be of interest to you. It's certainly something that industry-wide we're getting asked more and more about these particular tools and what can be made available. So that's a quick resume of what we're going to be looking at today. So I'm going to just open, I have a session of OpenRose Designer here, and to start with I'm going to have a look at some of the simple most common imports of data types that we use, and I'll also mention other areas where we have some issues with importing data. So the first thing we always have a look at is terrain modeling, and there are several methods here for importing data. There's from a file, which we'll look at in a sec, from graphical filters and graphical elements. For those of you who are MX users, this is a bit like the MX conversion toolbar, and effectively what you're doing here is matching elements or data types within the data source, be it a DGN or DWG, to feature definitions. So you can map a level or a DWG layer to called alignments to a feature definition called centerline geometry, for example. We've done this before, so I'm not going to go through it. It's a little bit process, so I'm not going to take up too much time today doing this. But it is a really handy tool for getting in other types of CAD data, and it's something that's used a lot. We do supply some graphical filter templates in the various data sets. So you can use, if you're using a standard level naming convention, then these can be utilized regularly, and certainly, so for the UK data set, there's a IAN24 or whatever it's called now, a graphical filter group here that you can use. And I say the from elements it's instead of using a graphical filter, you just could use element selection to convert data. And there's some additional methods in here as well. Text interpolation, again for you MX users, there was a 2D to 3D surface that could create, and it uses it takes the text associated with a point and does some clever formatting to import the data. And as I say, we'll have a look at point clouds as well. So simple enough, from a file is simply open up the file name and have various different types of files that you can use. Simple X, Y, Z. There's LiDAR data, LAS file, which I have here, and it just goes through and brings you up the import terrain dialog. If I had an existing terrain, I could append it to that. I don't in this case. I can tell that because if I go to the OpenRose, the Explorer here, you'll see there are no other terrain models already in this area. And we can, if we wish, apply a filter, be it a tin or a tile filter. We can put in a tolerance and granularity. This is particularly relevant for, as I say, stuff like LiDAR data, where you've got loads and loads of points, and it may be that you're getting too much information in, and you can reduce it down if you wish, using the filter options here. Excuse me. And then there's options for applying a feature definition. I have existing boundary here, but you could choose any of the ones we supply or any of your own. And you get the option of importing the terrain only, or importing the features only, or importing both if you wish. It's entirely up to you. I must admit, I tend to use the import terrain only and then reference in the actual display afterwards, if you have that sort of information. So I'm just going to import this here, and you'll see that the data, the LiDAR data should come in. It tells me the import's complete, and if I do a zoom extent, you'll see our data, and I can turn on my triangles if I wish to show the surface that we have. And I know it's see at the moment I've only got 2D displayed, but if I view tile and create a 3D model, use the 3D model, we can see that we have 3D information, and we've got a dodgy point in it there somewhere, which we can go and edit if we wish. I'm not going to do it in this particular case, but it's quite a good tool for checking to see if there's anything dodgy in our survey. So that's file import from an LAS file from LiDAR data, and you can see now it created us a model, terrain model over here, and it tells us where the terrain model comes from as well, what file we've used. So you can just re-import it. You can re-import, update terrain model. Also, if your source data changes, automatically update it. I'm just going to delete this terrain because I don't need to see it. And if I go to my next from file, as I say, we've gone through LAS, there's an inroads digital terrain model, GeoPath files, land XML. You can import, for MX users, there's you can look directly at model.fil and import the data from the model file, and also for MXs, the GenIO options as well. So for example, if you want to import directly from a model file, you have to browse to a folder where there's a model file. I'm just trying to remember where I've got one here, and it opens up the models.fil and it lists all the models in that particular model file. So that's quite handy for importing stuff from, if that's what you need to do. But again, I think we're finding that a lot of people nowadays are getting data in land XML format. And again, the process for importing data from a file is exactly the same for all of the data types. So you just hit survey and you say you get the same format again, the same panel again. Again, you can filter it, and you can assign a feature definition. You can append it to existing, and you can change triangulation on max triangle, left side landable for your analysis inside MX as well. And if you have a graphical coordination, you can apply it here as well. Mark's going to cover this in a little bit more detail later. So I'll simply hit import on that again, and we get our terrain in 2D and 3D. I've only imported the terrain here because how I tend to work, and this isn't how it works for everybody, but I would then probably go and reference in if I've got the data in a DWG format, is it this one here? I'm trying to remember which one it is. No, it's not. It's survey.dwg here, coincident world, and open that up, and hopefully I've chosen the right one. We should get a DWG referenced in. Sometimes it takes a little while depending on the complexity of the data, but as you can see here now, I've got it. The 3D file was active, but as you can see, I've referenced it in here, and we've got a proper 3D, and all the referenced information is snappable and attributable, so you can work with this quite well by referencing it in. The advantage is once you want to see more detail, you can just turn the reference off, and it turns off really quickly. So really that's the data that I've imported from a file. As I say, there are several other graphical methods as well, but from a file there are, as I say, simply many different formats. I don't think I've come across a format yet that we haven't been able to import to OpenRose Designer. Okay, what else have we got? Oh, just one thing to remember: when you import your terrain, and I say we can turn on various contours if we want, major contours, minor contours. We talked about those previously, where you can set up the default values for these, and obviously you can turn your triangles on and off as well. And again, I'm not going to go through this in detail because we've done it before, but the main thing to remember is to set an active terrain model. And so now if I've set this as the active terrain model, so if we do any geometry work, if we do any end conditions / earthworks, it will pick this up as our active terrain model and use this terrain to produce our profiles. I've covered referencing, so geometry. There's also some geometry import tools as well. Again, if we go to import geometry, there are a myriad of file types we can use, including you can go down to the MX geometry file as well, or an XML file, or an IFC file, or any of the other Bentley products as well. So, you know, for example, I might have a GCO1. I'm not sure 100% what this is, but let's give it a go. We can import a piece of geometry there. What annoys me, and there's a little bit of a defect I think here, which I've logged, is you don't get on the import geometry panel the option of setting a feature definition. So you need to go in and set your feature definition afterwards, which is, to me, a little bit of a pain. Having said that, I mean, I'm not sure people are importing MX that often, but we'll see anyway. But it's the same with any of the other import geometry types anyway. Other import geometry tools as types as well. You don't get the option of featurizing it, which is a little bit annoying. But as I say, you'll see it's importing both the 2D and it's importing any 3D information that you've got on it as well. And there's also a few other ASCII files that you can import as well. But again, I'm not going to go through. I'm not going to go through all of these. We've done them before, and it's just a real show what we can and can't import. There's also, for those of you interested in the site layout tools. I'm not sure this is particularly relevant for the UK, but certainly we had an old site development tool called SiteOps, and this allows you to import SiteOps files, and I think they're Z files amongst others, which allows you to import SiteOps files into OpenRose Designer and carry on your work there. I say don't think particularly relevant in the UK, and also. For those using older versions of corridors as well, there's the option of being able to import an IRD. An IRD is it's more relevant to inroads than MX, but it's an old inroads corridor model from, I think, probably from SS2. Not sure about SS4, but certainly from SS2 you could import an inroads corridor file from that. And that worked quite nicely. So, and it's worth just mentioning a couple of other areas. Drainage and utilities. We have two tools in here. We have extract from graphics, an extract from graphics tool, which allows you to create data by picking it off the display to create subsurface utilities work. Again, I'm not going to go through that in any great detail, but you can assign nodes and conduits to dumb graphics data and create subsurface data from it. And one of the tools that's really useful in subsurface is something called Model Builder, and this allows you to, and certainly in the UK it's been used a fair bit, allows you to import micro drainage data from a spreadsheet that's created out of micro drainage. You can import that data into the subsurface model, and it will go through and create you a subsurface, proper subsurface model, which you can then use in OpenRose Designer. I think we did this in our introduction to subsurface a year or so ago. But just for completeness, as I say, there's a couple of other areas where you can import data. Okay, I'm very, very briefly going to touch on exporting data as well. I mean, really, it does what it says, really. So if you want to export terrains to a file, you simply click on the export terrains, and the options you get land XML, Geopack TIN, DTM, directly to the model file or an MXGenero file. It speaks for itself really, and all it's doing is exporting either triangles, features, or both. It's up to you, and that really is just creating some kind of file which you could utilize if you want to share data with people using OpenRose Designer or backdate it to MX or something like that. So I mean, that's really the export to file on terrains. We can also do some exporting of geometry as well. And there is land XML, obviously, and MXGenIO and IFC alignment, which we might talk about a little bit later. So they're the formats that you can export your geometry. And it's all fairly self-explanatory. You just click the tool and it creates the bit of geometry. I'm not going to go through all of these types because it just is a click of a button. And some other exporting options, really this is more to do with files than the actual data itself. If you go to the file option here, there are some export tools down here, and you can create yourself either a 3D DGN, so a native MicroStation DGN can be created, or a AutoCAD DWG file, which you can save out, which works pretty good. DGN libraries, which most users aren't really interested in, and various other formats that you can save data in. As far as terrain exchange files go, PDFs become more and more common. We're seeing more and more people using PDFs, and you know, we create some quite nice PDFs out, for example, of you know, a plan drawing, and this is one I created earlier. So yeah, so the PDF tool works really, really well. I've got no annotation on this, but if I had annotation on it, it comes through as well. Or you can just create a PDF of your design model as well. Again, looks pretty good. So again, as I say, it's just to create a case of choosing the file you want and exporting it. And there's some other 3D modeling and visualization types as well. As I say, the PDF ones become more and more popular straight out of OpenRose Designer, because you can export, as I showed, you can export your final drawings, so your plans, your profiles, your cross sections can all be exported to a nice PDF. And again, I think we've done that. We've certainly done creating final drawings earlier on this year, but it's just for completeness to say what we've done. Okay, so the last bit of import data I want to have a look at is point cloud data, and it's a fairly straightforward process. The only thing you need to be aware of is that you need to have a 3D DGN to get point clouds to work. If you try using it on a 2D DGN, it will give you an error message. So I'm not 100% sure why you need, I guess because the native data is 3D, but I've used the 3D seed file now for this particular display here. And so to import point cloud, so if I go to terrain first off and do create from point cloud, it tells me that there's no current point clouds current on this DGN. So I need to actually attach a point cloud, and if I go to attach tools, you'll see there's an attached point clouds option here, and I can just browse to my pod file here, which is in my working folder. Open that, and it's a bit like the reference file dialog. It just attaches the point cloud, and as you can see it, there's millions and millions of points here. But it is pretty quick actually, and if we rotate, you can see there's 3D information there as well, top view, and now we have our pod attached, and this can come from anywhere. You know, there are tools within the Bentley product range which create point clouds. We can now go additional methods, create from point cloud, and it now knows we've got a point cloud attached to this particular DGN, so it doesn't tell us it hasn't. Again, standard dialog box. Really wanted to, this isn't a particularly big area, but if we really wanted to, we could go down and filter data out. But I'm just going to import it, and goes through the standard import process. Because there's a lot of data, it can take a little while. So you just need to be a little bit patient, but it does get there in the end. And as we'd applied a fully less data associated with it. But there we go. We have our terrain imported. And what I can do now, what I tend to do, is to go back to the attached tools and detach the point cloud now, because as we've got the terrain, we don't need the point cloud anymore. And as I say, we've got all our usual terrain tools there now. So that's how you attach point clouds. Just a couple of last things that I said I'd do would be, I've imported and exported data. Just have a quick look at some of the reports available. The most common one I'm going to be interested in are some of the carriageway and geometry reports. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time. This is a bit of a refresh because we've done a lot of work on this already before. But in geometry, we have loads of geometry reports, so we can locate our piece of geometry, read complete, and our start and our end point. Put in an interval to include as the active profile, and it goes away and it creates our reports here. And as you can see, there are a myriad of geometry reports. We've just picked the alignment review, but there's total lengths, there's XYZ, change bearing radius, for those of you who are familiar with report 992, I think it is, and curve sets, so horizontal data, horizontal alignment data, and there's also, I think there's the vertical review as well, so vertical alignment review, vertical alignment points, and ASCII file as well. And whereas in MX it was a bit messy to get data output from the reports, if you can now do this save as, and you can get an XML or a nice text file out and format it however you like. So yeah, there's loads and loads of export options here for your geometry as well. So really, that's geometry, and a couple of other bits on reports as well. For corridors, there are various corridor reports as well, component quantities, results report, milling, super elevation reports as well. Okay, so I think that's me done. Just a quick précis of what we did was to look at some of the import tools we have, some of the export tools we have, save as, all of different file types, and then very, very brief run through of reports. As I say, we've done a few of those before, so I didn't want to focus too much on those. I'm going to pass over to Mark now, and Mark's going to look at some of the more industry-related data usages, or how to enhance your data with coordinate systems, Bing maps, reality meshes, and importing and exporting visualization eye models and the geotechnical stuff. Then I'm going to come back at the end and do, if we have time, a brief section on, very, very brief on Asset Manager, IFC and digital twins. So Mark, are you available? I'm going to stop sharing.
Yes, can you hear me?
And, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm going
to mute myself if you want to share your screen.
Yeah, just let me know when you can see my screen.
Not quite, getting there.
Okay.
Yep, go for it.
Okay,
you can
good.
See it now.
Hello everyone. So for my part, as Simon said, I will talk about different ways to visualize your data in other products. Also how to import from different other products and export to them. So let's start with the big maps and Google Earth. And first thing, when you need to exchange or collaborate with your files, it's to make sure that you use the right coordinate system. We've already talked about it, but it's still a good thing to be remembered every time you can. And when you want to do it, you have different options. So you have the search ribbon. You can go and search here for the coordinate systems here. And if you keep holding the mouse on it, you can see the different places where you can find it. So the same icon is available in different workflows. So let's say I want to see it in the drawings, because it's the one more complete with what I want to demonstrate today. And here, so you have the icon for the coordinate system. If you click on it, you will see if you have a coordinate system assigned to your drawing or not. At the moment, mine is the British National Grid, so the usual one. But if I had nothing here, I would be able to go in the library, and from the library, you have two ways to find it. So in the library tab, you can go and select it from the different locations. Here it would be projected, Europe, UK. And as you can see, we have different coordinate systems available for the UK. You've got the British Nat Grid, that is the main one used, but you have also different formats. Also, if you work on Heathrow Airport, you got it directly here. And also for HS2, they are the snake grid projection for the 2002 and the 2015 version. And you can use both of them in your projects. And also some formats from the England Highway. So you can select here, double click on it, and it will assign it to your current drawing. Otherwise, you can go and search for it here if you remember any keywords, and then assign it again to your drawing. Once this is done, that you're happy with your coordinate system, let's see how we can dialogue with, for instance, Google Map. You have two different options. We showed you once that you can use big maps as a background in your drawing once you have your coordinate system. If you go in the view settings, view attributes here, let's open the window. You have the possibility to choose a background map. So by default, you can use the street map, aerial, or hybrid version. So let's say I want to use the street map. Takes some time to load it, but then it will come. And this, so of course, big maps is not as accurate as any orthophotos or any drone survey campaign. So it should be used just as an indication, a way to help you to understand the context of your project, and not just for the design. So you can have this as a background, as it's demonstrated here. So you can use the aerial view if you want. The only thing to be aware is if you want to add it in your drawings, on your sheets, if you want to have them printed, it won't work with this one. And in this case, if you want to have them, you have the second option to attach it as a raster. So if you go in the raster manager, you can go here, attach Bing Maps, and you will have exactly the same thing, but it will become a raster manager, so a raster. So it will be, you will be able to display them on your plans. Then, if you want to, let's say, ways, no, just give me, yes, here you have the possibility to open the current location in Google in Bing Maps. So if I click on it, I'll validate some options. It will come in your Explorer, so you will see the location here. And so it's a good tool to just to find the right location. And that's pretty much the different options you have with bitmaps. Then you have also the possibility to export your drawing into Google Earth with the different settings here. So for instance, you can choose which format you want to export, any information about the tolerance, anything. What is really useful here is about the 3D, how you want them to behave in the Google Earth, because it's likely that the existing ground won't be the same in your drawing than on Google Earth. So you can say, for instance, just if you want to see the footprint of your project, usually I use the flatten to ground altitude mode. So like this, you can see the location on it, but of course it won't keep the right, or say, elevations. Once you're happy with the different options, you can go here and then export Google Earth file. When I click on it, I specify which one I want to, the name and the location. And once it's done, it will launch automatically Google Earth. And go at the appropriate location. Here we go. So you get here in Google Earth, you can see the alignments, you can see the different terrain models that I've created. They're flattened to the ground in Google Earth, but at least it gives a good idea of what is the footprint of the project. If you go on the left in the different options, you can see that the different levels are distinct, so you can also decide to display them or not. You can also delete the categories, so you still keep a lot of flexibilities on how you want to display them. And then when you're happy, you can save the file and share it with other people without problems. You can also, you have also different options. I think you can also synchronize the view. So I won't do it, but just to give you an idea, if you're scrolling and going in different places and you want to see it on Google Earth, you can just go and synchronize the view. Okay. So it will go and follow exactly the same location in Google Earth. Okay, that's what you can do with Google Earth. And now let's review a bit a different format with which you can exchange and collaborate with the other teams and other products, is the iModels. So I think it's not a new format. It's something that Bentley has been using for a long time already. But I don't think that MX users were really using them because you couldn't really interact with the MX models and iModels. Now it's a different story with the Open Rose Designer. You have more possibilities to see what is inside the iModels and base your design on them. So it's really something that you should consider and integrate inside your workflows. And let's have a look at an example of what can be done. So for instance, let's say that we're working on a project with the bridge team. They're working on an open bridge, for instance, so they're doing their design. And I would like to get their data inside my project, so the latest version. In this case, if they're working with OpenBridge, it's a native DGN product, so you would be able to use a DGN file inside your references. So for instance, let's say in this case, it's what I've done. Here, if I go to the view, I've got my design here, so that's my roads. And if I go back in the 3D view, let's see, here we can see that I've got the bridge, and this bridge has been designed with OpenBridge. I just reference it as a reference here. I just attach it here, so it's a DGN. I can use it. It's full of advantages. For instance, every time the bridge is updated, I can automatically and in real time have the update. But it has also some limitations because basically so anyone can edit the DGN, anyone can change things or delay things, and that could be can be a huge impact on the project. The second option is to create iModels. So if you don't know what is an iModel, is basically a model self-containing, basically containing all the different information of your project with the different schemes and everything. So every time you reference them, you don't need to worry about the references. You just have everything inside, and it contains all the information you need to know about your projects. So basically you can have the physical and functional representation of your projects inside the file. So let's say now I want to exchange this my file with the bridge team. What I can do is just go display off their project because they have it, they don't need to mark it, and I publish the iModel here. From the iModel, I can create a single package. That's the main option. I can change the name and the location if I want. I can add more documents if I want, and I can also restrict some of the rights. So I can say that you're allowed. You can allow people only with passwords, with certificates, or everyone to open this DGN. You can also allow export and printing. You can also set a date for the expiration. So you know if your project that would be expired in a month and you don't want anyone to use this file after this date, you can use this. And then you have the possibility to create an iModel format. So that's the difference is the iDGN is you can read it directly inside your the different products, so the different Bentley products. And the iModel is something that can be used in Navigator. Let's see if we have enough time. I will show you what Navigator can do. But let's create the file. So like this, we can go and use it. You have also the different options. We can republish all iModels. So if you want to be sure to have the up-to-date version, and choose what you want to publish. If you want to keep the saved view, the views, and so on. Let's keep all the contents. And you have different settings also for the different elements. So like the point cloud, if you want to keep original or you want to reduce the size. So just if you don't want to have too big, too large file, and so on. So once you're happy with it, you publish it. So it takes some time to be published. So, yes, that's the folder. So it has created those files, the iDGN here and the iModel file. So with this iDGN, what I'm going to do is to open OpenBridge. That's the bridge that was attached in my project. I think also iModels I've reviewed, and you can also, like Navisworks, Revit, are able to read the iModels. So that's also, you can also collaborate with people using Autodesk products. And here is my bridge, and it works exactly as a reference. You just go in the attach reference, and in this case, I will be able to attach my iDGN here. And there you go. So in the 3D view, you should see, yes, because I've referenced the 2D model. I change to the 3D, I can see that my OpenWorks project has been referenced in the OpenBridge, and now they can use it as a reference and for their design. The other advantage is that you can also use, as I said, if we, let's just see if I can now display the, okay, I need to display the reference here. There we go. Sorry, I'm just trying to display the profile. No, I don't think I would get it here. Okay, it's here. I can't see it. Okay, never mind. So that's basically one of the way to use the models. So you can go and share it with the different other products and the other member of the team. Okay, another format that is also quite useful to know and to use is the reality meshes. So if we go here in the reality modeling softwares, the main product that Bentley has for the reality modeling is context capture. It's a way to, as it says, modeling the reality. So basically you have two different big options to get these reality meshes. You can take pictures of the site, and then context capture will put them together to create a model, a 3D model. Or you can also use a drone and get a kind of campaign on an area, and it will recreate all the area in 3D. That can be used along, say, the life cycle of your project. You can say that at the beginning, you want also to see how your project would be integrated in the reality. So you can use these models to display your project. And then you can also use it during the construction, see the different phases and see how it goes and how it ties in with your project. So it can be really something that can be used all along the construction and also the use of your project. If you want to see how it comes, let's say here I can show you a context capture project. So, okay, it can take some time because it's quite a big project. Okay, here we go. So that's just to give you an example of what it can be. This is context capture viewer. It's free. So you can read the three. Context capture creates two different formats, the 3MX and 3SM. With it, you can read both formats. And 3SM models comes like this. So the advantage compared to the other models is the resolution is scalable, meaning that it adapts the accuracy of the model depending on the zoom where you are. For instance, if you're zooming out like this, you don't need to have all the details, so it will just display some strategic points. And more you will zoom in, more details will become available. So you can go here and you can see that the elements are updating every time I go a bit closer or I scroll. You can see the different information. So basically that's the kind of model you can get from context capture with a drone, for instance, and you can easily include it inside your project. So let's see, for instance, if I go and open Node Designer, and I go in Concept Station. No, that's, so I opened the wrong one because I wanted to show context capture. Yes, so basically with the 3SM formats, you can read it with Open Node Designer, And the two main products that are using the 3SM are, as I told you, context capture. So you will be able to have it inside your drawing, and concept station, which is the conceptual design product of Bentley. If you are not familiar with it, you can have an overview of its capabilities on the Bentley website. So basically, it's a way to create a conceptual design of your roads and rails, and you can read this format with. So when you create a terrain, it will create a 3SM format, and you can then read it with OpenRoad Designer. So here I've referenced the model I've created in context capture inside OpenRoad Designer, so you can see it here. And we are using the reality modeling workflow. So you can see it, you can go everywhere, you can rotate, so it will be exactly the same thing that what we were able to see with the viewer. And for instance, let's say you want to extract a portion of this model to make a design of your project. You can do it. So for instance, here I just represented a road, and you can see that it can be used. The 3SM model can also be used as a terrain model for OpenRoad Designer. So you go, the only thing that you have to do, if you go in the, I'll say, Reality Manager, when it comes from context capture, the model is not defined as a terrain. So you need to extract a portion of it, and OpenRoad Designer will convert it in terrain. So with the artificial intelligence and some algorithm, it will be able to recreate the terrain model for your project. And this is possible from here, extract reality, quick extraction, ground extraction. And then you would have this, and you would be able to use it to design your project. Here, for example. Okay, next thing I wanted to show you is also on the geotechnical aspect. We have the possibility to collaborate with GINT. If anyone works with GINT, that is a software that helps you to manage your subsurface data. So if you have any boreholes, anything, you can design them and represent them in GINT. And once this is done, you can import this model inside OpenRoad Designer. There is a geotechnical module here in OpenRoad Designer, basically where you can connect your GINT project in it. And if you go in the 3D view, that's basically what you can get. So here you have all the different boreholes on the area and with the different layers. And here, so you can see the different layers of your terrain. And you would be able to use these different meshes inside OpenRoad Designer. So let's have a look. So basically you have different tools here for the 3D modeling to create meshes. So once you have all the boreholes, you click on this button and it would create meshes for the different layers. And then once this is done, you can use it in OpenRoad Designer. If I go back in the OpenRoad modeling workflow, and I want to display the different layers, I go, for instance, in the dynamic sections of this model here and there. And I want to display that here. You will be able to see, so from the alignment, all the different layers. And also one thing that is really useful that you could do also is to create within your templates, so for your corridor, an end condition specific for each level layer. So let's say you have a specific slope for these first layers, you will be able to target these layers and then use a different slope for all the different layers that you cross in your project. Okay, and yeah, and you can see, you can go along, and they're all here. Okay, Simon, I think I'll stop here, and like this, I can give you some minutes to finish your presentation.
Great, thank you. Let me just share my screen out again. Just takes a few minutes to catch up. I just wanted a couple of minutes really to talk about IFCs. I don't think I'm going to get a chance to cover anything on digital twins, but there is a link that I've put on to explain a bit more about digital twins. It's probably a lecture or a webinar in its own right, to be perfectly honest, but it is all about having a design and a physical model that match up with each other. And I say, maybe in the future we'll get one of my colleagues who's in the digital twins group to talk to us about it. But one of the other things that we get asked a fair amount about is IFCs. Industry, and IFC is, for those who don't know, it's really a BIM modeling technique. It's called Industry Foundation Classes, and it was started, from my understanding, it started a lot in the architectural, building and construction industry data, and it was really to sort of get a unification on how model data was constructed. It's really platform neutral. It's an open file format, and it's not particularly controlled by any vendors. It's developed by something called Building Smart, as they are now, which is an organisation made up of, I think, of just of users of various software, various construction companies. And as I say, it was used heavily initially in the building environment, and a standard building schema was developed. Now, it is a buzzword for in civil design, civil engineering at the moment. But as far as we're aware, there's no real standard schema for civil engineering at the moment. There's various standard, simple, generic formats. So, we're struggling really to produce standard specific IFC files, because there really isn't any industry standard that we're aware of just at the moment. If anybody knows better, then please contact me. We're always looking to improve this, but it is something we get asked about a great deal. So we do have the ability to export 3D corridor model message to generic IFC formats. And if we look at, it's under, where is it? It's under the Home tab. And there's a button here, Export to IFC. So I'm just going to click on it here. And again, it doesn't really ask, you get what you get really. And there's not really any options to vary anything. You click on, you create a name boundary, and you can create a name boundary however you like. I've created this one by 2 points, but you could use the named boundary that you've got along that you use for drawing production. So I'm simply going to click on it, and it's getting all the meshes associated with it, have it away as an IFC file, and there we go. And that's really all there is to it. If we go to our folder, we can see we've created an IFC file, and if we double click on it, it will open up in the, I'm using BIM Vision, but there are, I believe, others available as well. And you see, and again, I am absolutely no expert, you guys know about it, but there is information in here, and it gives you the name of the mesh element, the type of the building element, and any element specific information on GUIDs, predefined types, civil quantities if you've got those as well. So there is the ability to output information in an IFC format. Now, how usable this is with something we're still learning at the moment, but there is something there to work on. And as I say, I'm no expert in using any of these BIM tools at all, but it's something we can certainly look forward to more in the future. But as I say, it's there. Use it. Feedback to us. See what you think. Let us know what you think of it, and let us know what's missing and what's not missing. One thing I meant to mention during when I was in his that I believe that export to IFC is linked quite closely with the asset management tool, and there is an asset management tool that we have. And we're planning on doing something on asset management and item types in the next webinar. So you can open up a file which we do supply some defaults for. But as I say, certainly for IFCs, and I think also for Mark's iModel stuff as well, using the asset manager and item types is something that takes all of that information through to these tools as well. So as I say, we've covered some ground that we've covered before today, but hopefully we've shown you how OpenRoads Designer data can be used both internally and externally with other products, other Bentley products and other industry standard products as well. And we've shown you something about importing and exporting simple data, and also some of the reporting tools we have available. So I think we'll come to the close there. The next webinar, as I mentioned, is going to be on the 24th of September, and it's going to cover item types and asset management, so that'll be a good learning curve for Mark and I as well. It only remains for me to say thank you for attending today. Hope you all stay safe, and for those of you in Europe, I think it's summer holiday time, so if you've got anything planned, have a good break, and we'll speak with you all at the end of September.